Here we are, man. Awesome. Well, we're officially recording now. Zach, thanks for taking the time to come here, man. I
Appreciate having
know
us.
you got to hang out down the road and see your buddies, so that was kind of cool too. So, before we get started, man, I want to shout out Matthew Lewis for hooking this up. He's been a longtime friend of mine and yours obviously as well.
Yeah.
And so he connected us together and said what you do and the foundation that you work for, and of course it fits perfectly with what we do, right? And so I'm super excited to have you on and just kind of talk about that. So Zac, is it Lemmon? Lemon, just like the fruit. So
Two M's.
Two M's. Zac Lemmon, two M's. Is in the house with Kids and Clays,
Sir.
and foundation that I'll let you dive into it more, but helps with Ronald McDonald House Charities, and so that's pretty cool as well. And but before we get into that, man, let's go ahead and introduce you, Zach. Introduce who you are. You know how you grew up, and we talked about some cool whitetail hunting before we got started here. So we'll dive into that, man.
Yeah. So born and raised Central Ohio, Lincoln County. Went to college, played football, went to University of Mount Union.
Yeah.
Majored sport business, environmental science.
Okay.
Right outside of college, actually just before I graduated, I really knew I wanted to be in the outdoor industry. What that looked like, I had no idea at the time. One of my friends' cousin was starting a whitetail outfitter out in Lincoln County.
Yeah.
Brian Dawes, Brushy Fork Outfitters.
We do a lot of work with them.
Yeah. So I got to meet Brian over a couple times. We actually used to hunt a property that he was starting to lease.
Okay.
So that was kind of a connection.
Yeah.
So Brian said, "Hey, would you be interested? When you graduate, I'm looking for an operations manager, head guide kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of new." So it's like, yeah, man. This is, grew up in, obviously whitetail country, and then also being as, Brushy Forks in Lincoln County is an easy transition.
Oh, for sure.
Learned a ton from that. Fast forward, did that for about 2.5 years. Learned a ton, met a ton of great people. Learned more about deer than I ever thought I actually knew.
Yeah.
So then just one day, a girl I went to high school with reached out to me and said, "Hey, my father's works for this organization called the U.S. Sportsman's Alliance, and he's trying to hire somebody to help with membership of gun clubs and sportsmen's clubs and stuff like that." So I said, "Okay, yeah, I would love to interview." Well, got the interview, and guy's name's Jeff Watkins, Granville guy.
Yeah.
Had a second interview with his boss, Doug Generette. That went well, and they offered me a job. So then I was doing membership for gun clubs, pretty much a national organization. The organization really had a tight bond with Ohio here, so really learned a lot about that.
Okay.
Did that for 2 or 3 years. Then Doug Generette, he actually moved on after being there for like 27 years, some crazy amount of time at the Sportsman's Alliance, and picked up an organization called Kids and Clays Foundation.
Okay.
Was working a convention at the NRA convention 1 year, and happened to see Doug. And Doug and I always had a good relationship when I worked for him for a couple years. And he just said, "Hey, this Kids and Clays Foundation, it's really picking up, and I think we're looking for somebody. You should consider interviewing." And so I did, and 9 years later, here we are.
Here you are, man. And it's so funny how this is all connected in such a small world. I mean, we talk about it all the time, but this industry is so much smaller than what it is, or what people make it to believe.
Sure.
And of course, Doug knows Todd. Through connections. Todd's been in the industry for quite some time, and of course his dad before that. And so it's really interesting how it's like Matthew connected us, and I know you know Matthew through Mallory, through your time there at Granville, and come to find out, I said, "Oh yeah, hey, what do you think about this?" And Todd's like, "Oh yeah, well I know Doug," and it was like, "Go ahead, have the conversation. I definitely think it's worth having." And almost like it's just so funny how this stuff is so interconnected, and of course selling firearms and other things here. It's we're in that space, and so it's pretty cool to see how that all worked out. So you got started with Kids and Clays. What did you always become? I mean, you're a program director now.
Mm-hmm.
Have you always kind of started in that role, or did you have to kind of move up, or how was the timeline for that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess, no, by no means was I a program director at the time. In my outfitter days, running clients from all over the country, and that was really a trial by fire. and trying to manage employees and all that, and then doing the membership stuff, trying to lead volunteers.
Sure.
Which I don't know if I would suggest going, your first at bat going for volunteers. It's a pretty interesting thing. But then becoming a program director here, honestly, Doug was the only employee.
Was it?
Yeah, that was at 14 or 15. So it was, again, trial by fire. So at the time, I don't think we really knew what we were getting into, as in like what I was in charge of, what Doug was in charge of, and where the organization was going. It kind of molded itself over time.
Yeah.
But now we have 2 other employees. Yeah, I mean, yes and no.
Yeah, it is so, well, it's in smaller organizations like that. You're kind of probably doing a jack of all, right? I mean, you're helping Doug and when he needs help, and he's helping you. And I mean, we only have 2 employees and 4 employees. There's a lot of hands probably being helped for sure.
Yeah, everything from logistics down to trying to get sponsors and everything in between. So that's pretty cool. Interesting.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So getting into Kids and Clays. Obviously, like I mentioned earlier, it's an organization that benefits Ronald McDonald House Charities. What is the main goal of the foundation? Like, what does the foundation do? Obviously, it's related to target shooting with the clays in there and getting kids involved. How does that? What's the main goal of the organization? Trying to raise the funds for them. Yeah.
So the biggest thing that we wake up every day thinking is how can we raise the most money possible for Ronald McDonald Houses. It just so happens to be through the the shooting sports industry. Yeah. But our main objective every day is to raise as much funds as possible for them.
Sure.
And I think we do a pretty good job so far in doing that and managing that and achieving that goal. How we do it is obviously a much larger question.
Yeah.
That obviously I'm sure we'll get into.
Oh, for sure.
But that idea of just raising as much money as possible and what that looks like. So trying new things and best practices.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
It's been really interesting to me just as my time getting to know you and getting to know the organization and just kind of the research I'm doing behind it. Like, when you think Ronald McDonald House, you don't necessarily think shooting sports being able to found that. Was there any type of like barrier? Like, I mean, I'm sure you didn't deal with it, but Doug probably had some of that. But like, how does, in the world that we're in today and how divisive firearm industry is, just in terms of national picture, like how does the shooting sports, like, where is that agreement coming from in terms of working with Ronald McDonald House, which typically you think of an organization, like a nonprofit organization, they're not really partnering with shooting sports foundations.
Sure.
So kind of how did that mold?
How did it mold and how it functions?
Like how, okay. I'm sure there's some.
Yeah. So we'll go way back. So 99 it starts.
Yeah.
Okay. Glenn and Kathy Lebesnick are owner operators, near the Chicagoland area.
Yeah.
Michigan City, Indiana. Very long story short, Glenn likes to say he doesn't like golfing as much. I don't know if it's that he's not very good at it or if he just doesn't like it that much. But he gets introduced to, sporting clays specifically. We do a lot more sporting clays than trap and skeet shooting. Okay. Falls in love with it.
Yeah.
And if anybody has a background on the Ronald McDonald House, obviously it's in connection with McDonald's.
Yeah.
So owner-operators and suppliers really devote their philanthropy and all those things into Ronald McDonald House events.
Yes.
So Glenn one day just said, you know what? I think we can make money for the Ronald McDonald House doing a sporting clay shoot.
Yeah.
And he held it in 99, first-year event, just him and his wife and building a committee. Raised $15,800 for a first-year event.
Well, heck yeah.
Well, that caught on. And that would have been for the Ronald McDonald House of Chicagoland. Next thing you know, word of mouth happens, and the St. Louis house says, "Hey, I heard that there was a sporting clays event. All this. We're really intrigued." Okay.
Sure.
So that goes on, and then it just starts snowballing. It just really starts picking up. So to answer your original question is how does it start, and then how does Ronald McDonald House get into it? I think at the time, I don't know if there was a lot of communication between what we would call Ronald McDonald House Global. So Ronald McDonald House Global is its own 501c3.
Okay.
They're kind of the umbrella, the parent overlooking. Each Ronald McDonald House is also their own 501c3. Sure, there's branding, and they communicate and all that stuff, but they are their own entity of a nonprofit.
Okay.
As with Kids and Clays, we are our own 501c3.
Yeah, sure.
So technically, we're not with Ronald McDonald House, but that is where our proceeds benefit,
Gotcha.
and that's who we do. To connect that all together, I think, like you said, we live in a world where, firearms.
Yeah. I mean, we deal with it daily.
Yep,
it's
daily.
It's people have their opinion one way or the other on it, and it's a very hot topic. So
very hot.
I just assume as nonprofit organizations probably wouldn't want to get their hands in that. But if you're doing your own nonprofit and you're benefiting another nonprofit, they kind of have their hands free of it a little bit. I would
Not
say.
hands free. We definitely communicate with Ronald McDonald House.
Sure.
It's a mutual partnership,
Okay.
if you will. Really opening the eye of not just the houses, but the participants of what I would call participants of the houses, because there's a group of people that follow the house and will do whatever, they deem as a fundraiser for them, whether it's golf or the sporting clays and that
Sure.
kind of stuff. So the education of the firearms and understanding, this isn't like going in your backyard and throwing, like a clay target. I mean, you're at a nice gun club,
Yes.
has full-time staff, has safety talks,
Oh, sure.
has,
That's the real deal.
it's the real deal.
Yeah.
So I think that light has kind of shined on the participants that we have, along with the other Ronald McDonald houses, and they all get together, annually, quarterly, with all the executives, and again, word of mouth on that, and understanding that it is a good avenue for these people who want to donate to the house, but are outdoorsmen.
Yeah.
So we really do pull the outdoorsmen in, and we get committees that guys that have never been on a committee or really not stepped up with their time. I mean, obviously with their money and,
Sure.
and donations and like that, but next thing you know, they're wanting to build committees and they love the outdoors. So, hey, well, we see Kids and Clays has this structure of sporting clays, and they provide us X amount of stuff and guidance. And, I think it sounds like a cool idea. And it's just, it is just absolutely snowballed here.
I love it.
In the last 6-7 years. So.
I love it. And, it always goes back to that adage, like, hunters and anglers are the best. I mean, they're funding conservation, right? And there's a lot of avenues. If you're looking at like Whitetails Unlimited, DU, Ducks Unlimited,
Sure.
I'm sure you have partnerships with several organizations. A lot of these organizations are stepping up to benefit, all sorts of programs, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really cool just to see it's an unconventional method that, outdoorsmen want to give their time and they care about kids, and it makes it probably a win-win for everybody, right?
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Going into this, so you mentioned that each individual house is kind of its own nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
How many houses right now are you working with in terms of the organization?
Yeah,
is it national scale?
Yeah, it's a national scale. So we've got, we would deal with Ronald McDonald houses all the way from California to New York and everything in between.
Sweet.
The number fluctuates, but right now it's about 36 what we would call chapters.
Okay.
Now each chapter can have multiple houses.
Sure.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
So
sure.
some chapters have 5 houses, 7 houses. So in the U.S. as of 6 months ago, there were 277 houses.
Okay.
There's 377 in the world.
Okay.
But we cover if you're specifically talking houses, we probably cover a third. It fluctuates, and they're in a merger. So some houses have been picked up, some houses haven't. So it's a little bit more difficult of a response. But I would say we're somewhere near like physical houses, almost a third in the country.
How many kids do you think are being benefited by that?
Oh, that's a great question.
You listen to
These are a constant ebb and
it's
flow.
flow, yeah.
So last year we did about $2.8 million net back to the houses through our sporting clay shoots. Depending on the demographic, anywhere from $30 to $50 a night is what it keeps a family in. Okay. So if you just do the math on that for a year, without the house, or without me just doing on the top of my head, but a tremendous amount, and it continues to keep growing.
Makes you proud of what you do.
It I'm telling you, it's the easiest easiest thing to wake up in the morning and go to work.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah,
I mean, you just know that you're making a difference in the world. And I mean, I can't think of a job that would be more gratifying than just waking up and knowing that you're helping kids that just can't necessarily do it if they didn't have those means.
Sure.
But so going into this a little bit more, so you organize these events. Mm-hmm. So 2.3 or 2.8? I can't.
2.8.
8. Okay, so 2.8. I was close. So 2.8 million. How many events through your events? How many events did you host last year?
So the 2.8. Well, so we have a couple structures here, which is a little maddening if you're not in it to try to explain it. But so we have 31 corporate outings where the houses keep 100% of the proceeds at their events. So let's just use the Central Ohio House, for instance. The Central Ohio House will be at Mad River Sportsman's Club in September. They got a committee. They kind of have a local, get the national sponsors, those kinds of things. We provide, Kids and Clays provides 100% of the ammunition for the main event. We provide a merchandise package, outdoor industry stuff.
And that was the event I think I was talking to you about, too, that we were, I think, talking to Kevin, we were going to donate. Or not donate.
Yeah, that would. Correct.
But we gave them, some good pricing on some firearms for that.
Yep, we give a handful of firearms.
Like a raffle.
We also raffle, auction, game guns sometimes.
Oh, okay, cool.
We give a shooter gift to every participant. But we also consult with those local groups.
Yeah.
Okay, so talking to the gun club, understanding, what the gun club is charging, what kind of group of people to go for sponsorships, helping with ordering golf carts and all those kinds of things. We provide a pre-event summary, kind of where we think that they are going to be, and then a post-event summary. So we consolidate all those and really try to figure out the best practices for those things. But also we try to attend almost every event. Yeah. So we travel quite a bit.
I'll say, for sure.
But it really has sparked a higher percentage of net to gross for these houses, seeing these best practices and having us help and kind of consult with the everyday, operations between the gun club and ourselves, along with sponsors. So the main goal for those events, and that would be the $2.8 million, the revenue for that. And they don't have to go and worry about trying to get merchandise, ammunition.
Sure.
We're paying for it.
Yeah.
That's really what we provide.
So the house themselves doesn't have to worry about that.
The house has to go out and find the local people
and
find the local sponsors, and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, they do a lot more than that, but
sure.
that's the main goal of those.
They just need to get people there, and then you're providing the rest of it for them.
Correct. So that's really the big gist of it. Now, we also are the charity of the National Sporting Clays Association, the National Skeet Shooting Association, the Amateur Trap Shooting Association, along with the Scholastic Clay Target Program.
Okay.
So we'll set up auctions at their big, events, what we would call registered events.
Yeah.
So people shooting it for competition.
Yeah.
We'll do auctions there. We have a national sweepstakes that we push, and that's kind of the internal revenue to keep the lights on, if you will. And then we have a handful of events that we host ourselves. So at a national level where, just like the house events I'm telling you about, we then run those. We have one, I leave tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah, I leave tomorrow for our shoot up in Halter Wildlife. It's in Wisconsin, where those proceeds benefit us. But in reality, that's to help pay for the ammo, the merchandise, anything that we don't
just
get
helping
donated.
to raise the funds. Yeah,
Correct.
Exactly.
So when that's all said and done, I mean, we're over $3 million for the houses, and that was 22, and we're set to
looking good this year too.
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely.
Man,
record year.
I love this. I love it. Yeah, so let's get into that, because by the time this airs, I know you said you're leaving tomorrow for Wisconsin, so by the time this airs, you'll already be done with your event there and moving on to other ones. And like I said, we have the one coming up in September that we're kind of quasi participating in. Let's get into setting up those events, and not just the work involved. And you said you're getting the partners in terms of ammunition and things like that. I'm sure you're a busy guy right now. So what's it look like to organize and to set up an event like that? Biggest one of the year.
Yeah, so this is a crazy time, and I'm glad that we were able to do this today in the morning, because starting tomorrow, I mean, it's been so right now as it sits, we have 6 events in the next 2.5 weeks. New York, Wisconsin, Ohio, I don't even remember where. Oh, St. Louis at Nilo Farms. A couple other places. Like we just got back from the Grand American, which was 17 days. I was there 7. Travis was there for 10. And these 2 events that are coming up are our events where there isn't a committee, there isn't these things where we're consulting. It is our bread and butter. So there's a lot of stress, but good stress. So right now, it gets down to where we're making the scorecards. We're putting the station sign, building the station signs. Kylie Frazier really takes over that for us, and she's been with us 2 years now, and she really likes the whole graphic and the marketing side, and she's really getting a feel for it. So it's kind of getting more formal, if you will. But again, trial by fire is kind of
that's awesome
by where kind of where we're at. But all the way from the caterings and stuff like that, making sure that everybody's showing up on time, making sure the volunteers are doing that, in Wisconsin and in Columbus. And in St. Louis, so it's a little crazy right now. But
is the team all centrally here? I mean, I know you said Doug was
Granville. So I'm in Glenford. Doug and Kylie both live near Circleville.
Okay,
and then Travis lives in Orlando.
Okay, so he's the only outlier there. Travis, get up here, man.
Come on, Travis.
What are you doing? Make it easier for.
He just started in February, so he's in the grind right now. So he'll fly up and meet us in Chicago. We'll meet him up in Wisconsin. So,
has the so when you're working with these gun clubs, I'm sure are they donating their time for you? Is that something that you're paying for? How does that relationship? I mean, obviously there's probably certain gun clubs throughout the country that you've worked with and have good partnerships with. Is that kind of the deal with them?
You want me to call out all the ones that charge me?
No.
So if a gun club donated their efforts to every nonprofit, there wouldn't be any gun clubs because majority of their fundage, if you will, or operations is corporate outings or charity stuff.
Makes sense.
But they're very generous. They know who we are. We are the largest series of sporting clay shoots in the country. There's no one that is doing anything like what we're doing on this level. So our name's out there, and they understand, being the charity of the NSCA, NSSA, ATA, all that, there's a credibility there. Also, again, although we're consulting with the houses, we also consult with the gun clubs. So it's not like we sit there, someone who's volunteering their time trying to understand, a business model, that's not in their realm. So I can talk to a gun club and we have the same lingo. So it helps. So they're very generous. Now I do have some gun clubs that do donate their targets and their times and their service. And the biggest shout out I can give is Hillendale up in Medina. Sean and his team donate everything, and
of course it's an Ohio one, right?
Of course. No, there's a couple others. I mean, but Hillendale's coming up, and man, they do tremendous work, and it's a beautiful private club.
That's a good segue into. I wanted to get an opportunity for. Obviously, there's a lot of national partnerships. I know looking on the website, I saw some really big names in the industry in terms of like Winchester and among others. Let's give you some time to shout out all those organizations because I'm sure a lot of it wouldn't be possible without their help. Yeah.
So the original sponsor of Kids and Clays back when Glenn has told you about in '99 was Winchester Ammunition. Dick Hammett. Dick saw an opportunity there with Glenn and really got to know Glenn, and Winchester's been on with us since the beginning, since '99.
That's awesome.
That's kind of where it snowballed. Then you've got Federal and you got Champion, you got Promatic, Jim Moses and all them out there. Awesome people. Awesome people. Anywhere from, okay, let me backtrack here.
Yeah.
So half of our sponsorships are outdoor industry, firearms and ammunition. The other half is suppliers of McDonald's. So it's a really interesting merch.
I saw like Coca-Cola and stuff on there too, and I was like, wait a minute.
Tyson Foods.
It's not every day you see Federal Ammunition right next to a Coca-Cola label. So
but on the industry side, that's kind of where Doug and I really step in. Like you said, we do SHOT Show every year.
Sure.
We have a sponsor appreciation dinner then, before it really kicks in at Caesars. Just really thanking people, like I said, Federal and Winchester donate the ammo that we use for these houses, and then we work directly with them. So the allocation of where those go and everything goes directly through us, straight to them. Browning, a ton of firearms. Browning's our largest merchandise sponsor. Shonda Campbell, she's fantastic, also a board member. So.
Oh, there you go. That works out.
But yeah, no, growing up in the outdoor industry, as a career, but also as someone who is an avid outdoorsman, hunter, it's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really neat, and you kind of hit it early on in this conversation about how small this industry is.
It really is.
It's eerie small.
It is. Yeah. It's so big but so small at the same time. It's so weird,
So it's a very tight knit, humbling family community. To be able, you alluded to Coca-Cola and firearms next to each other, which but it's even
great.
But I think it's even cooler, just in our industry side, to see that Winchester and Federal can play nice, and understand a bigger cause than
they're both great at it.
Yeah, they're fantastic at it, and it's not like it's a secret. We have conversations with them, sitting across the table with each other if we have an event or whatnot, and it's just great, man. It's a good time, and we have a warehouse up in Chicago, so we get everything sent there. So making that easy for them.
Yeah.
Sending it to one spot, and then us, the staff at Kids and Clays, we go up there and we put all the pallets together and allocate it. Boom. Company called Armada and Martin Brower, big McDonald's logistics companies, and they put it on their stuff and send it out to the DCs, get it to the house, and boom, off we go. But yeah,
That's awesome.
the industry side of the shooting sports could be more grateful to them. And then speaking for the suppliers and the owner operators on the McDonald's side of stuff, I mean, to get to know them and understand their passion for Ronald McDonald houses in general, but they are so generous, and they attend all of the events. It's unbelievable if they're in charge of like the Southeast. Let's say like a company like Tyson's, and their distribution is all in the Southeast. They go to the events. It's not one of those things like you said, like you allude to. They shy away from the firearms and all those things. They truly attend, and that in itself speaks volume.
I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, it just like we said it so many times. I mean, it helps that we've been in this industry for 50 plus years, I think, since Vance's has been like dedicated truly into the firearms industry. And man, it's just like that helps to make it seem smaller, because I'm always a phone call away from a company, just based on people's knowledge and friendships that they've built over the years. But yeah, like you said, I mean, growing up as an outdoorsman and kind of in the space, we grew up in the same area. You look at TV and you see these shows, and you're like, man, that's just like larger than life figure, right? The Michael Waddells of the world, the T-Bone Turners, and it's just like those guys are accessible. They want to talk to you. Companies are accessible. They want to talk. Federal, Winchester. We had, and speaking of Winchester, so in shooting sports too, I'm looking at Ben now, but Maddie Bernau, I can't remember how. Bernau. She won the bronze medal at the Tokyo Games.
Okay.
Sponsored Winchester shooter out of Wisconsin, actually.
Okay.
Out of Wisconsin, yeah. So we had her on, and we reached out to our Winchester rep and said, hey, like, this is who we'd like to talk to. She won a bronze medal at the Olympics. I mean, clearly she's very talented. Boom. With that, one email later, it's like, hey, Maddie, this is Jordan, connected. And we had a great conversation. So we'll have to send her up your way for this weekend. No, I think she's down in Florida training most of the time, I think. I'm not 100% sure, though. We'll have to get in touch with her. I haven't talked to her in a long time. But, again, going back to it, it's just that circle, man. It's just so tight. So I'm going to step away from it for a second.
Sure.
Get into more as Zac, personal Zac. So you clearly are not home very often, it seems like. You're around and about. How do you hunt, man?
So I work remotely.
There you go. That works.
So when we're doing the 31, 32, when we were talking about the 2.8 million, those corporate outings, that's typically showing up on a Thursday, help set up the event with the house.
Okay.
The volunteers, event Friday, out Friday, most likely Saturday morning. Yeah.
He makes time for it.
Well,
He smiles.
so our final event for the year is in November, and then SHOT Show is in January. So we
Sure.
kind of have now that's mostly the computer work stuff,
Yeah.
making sure that our sponsors are set up and all those things, and
That's
wrapping up all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where
Yeah.
it sits in.
You get him a redneck. He can just do his work in the line.
Well, yeah, I hear that. So, so yeah, I do travel a lot. My wife also works remotely. We have
Perfect.
Yeah, we have 3 young kids. So when I'm home, I'm really home.
Yeah.
When I travel, there's long spurts.
Yeah.
But we make it work.
Yeah.
Our schedule allows that, and honestly, working for Doug, I've worked for Doug now 10, 11 years now. Doug really built an environment that's friendly to the employees.
Yeah, I get it.
Family oriented.
Yep. It's the most important thing at the end of the day, right?
Doug, there's north winds coming in. It's going to be 30 degrees. It's a Wednesday, and I got to figure out Thursday. He's like, all right.
It's a Wednesday. It's
have fun.
Red moon.
So there hasn't, honestly,
sure.
They haven't had any backlash. And he's a hunter too.
Yeah.
And then everybody, like we said, everybody at Part of Kids and Clays is really an outdoorsman. So I get my fair share of that.
There you go.
That's for sure.
That's awesome. And going back to it, I mean, I don't know if we were recording, but we live literally less than 10 minutes away from each other. So it's just like, I don't know how this industry works, man. I'm telling you, it's just so small. I can't believe, here this guy's doing this great organization. We have connections with Doug and Todd, and then here we live, you're literally a couple roads over.
Yep.
I mean, I drive by your house all the time.
Yep.
And so it's just cool it's just so cool to see how this all works. So getting into it, let's get into, I want to get into one of you've done a lot of events. You've worked there for 10, 11 years. What's been one of those moments that just really hit you? Like, I'm definitely proud of what I do. Has there been?
Deep.
I mean, it's been a day. I left this. I told you I gave you some samples, but I
remember that one.
I left you. There's a few that I left out. I mean, you've been able to really help a lot of people in that time. You figure all the people that you helped last year, all the people you've helped in years prior. What's been like a moment? Do kids? Are there any participants?
Yeah, there's kids that participate, but it's mostly corporate outings, mostly companies. Yeah, I mean we don't.
Nobody from the houses.
So that's a really good one. So I think when the houses do or we do our lunch program, if we're in between rotations. So say we have a morning rotation of shooting, and then you have this consolidation of lunch, games, auctions, and that second rotation signing up, and they're having lunch and all that stuff. I think one of the most impactful things, it is the most impactful thing, is when a house brings a family that's staying in the house currently or has in the past, and they tell their story.
Oh yeah.
That is.
Let's take a step back.
Yeah.
Because people may. I should have done this earlier, and I apologize.
No.
People may know the box when they go get their Big Mac, right?
Sure.
Throw your loose change in.
Sure.
Let's talk about what the house actually does for families, because that's something that we kind of skipped over, and I apologize.
Yeah. So essentially, what the Ronald McDonald House is it's a home away from home. So say you have a sick child, or majority of them are preemie children.
Sure.
You find out your child has some kind of illness.
Yep.
And let's say you live in Detroit, Michigan.
Yeah.
And one of the best children's hospitals are St. Jude's in North Dakota.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Sure.
North Dakota.
Well, here, let's take it home. Nationwide Children's Hospital is right down the road.
Yep.
We have the Columbus one. That's a perfect thing. Somebody from West Virginia or Pennsylvania, or whether their kids at Nationwide Hospital.
Yep. So the Ronald McDonald House is typically within walking distance of the Children's Hospital. The house provides, a room, cooking, cleaning, everything that you would need at home, when you're far away.
Yeah.
It allows the families to be next to their children while they're healing. Statistics have shown that a child will heal better or quicker
with support.
With support. Exactly. It's something that families don't need to worry about the everyday accommodations.
Yes.
And that's really where Ronald McDonald really steps in a huge part. And like you said, bringing it back to home, the Central Ohio House is going through
An expansion.
an expansion.
Yeah,
It'll be the largest house.
If I'm not mistaken, I think we were talking about it last week. I think it's like 80 to 130.
Sounds about right.
130 rooms or something.
Yeah, they're buying up the whole block. So,
yeah,
I mean, it's fantastic.
It's awesome.
So, but yeah, just it's a home away from home for families who really need it when their child is in, need.
Yeah, perfect. And so I wanted to clarify that because we should have hit it before, but it goes when you are going through and getting your Big Mac, right, and your Diet Coke. Sure. Throw that loose change in there.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because this is
it's Roundup now.
Oh, is it Roundup?
It's Roundup now.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect, man. But yeah, so tying this all back. So obviously it's a home away from home. These families are coming in and telling their story. You were getting ready to mention one of the most.
Yeah. When the families come in and they explain the difference that not only the house makes, but all the donors sitting around this room or pavilion or whatnot, that is like the most impactful thing. And we have a trailer that we do. I kind of mentioned, at these Sporting Clays Association shoots, these registered shoots. And, we get a lot of people. And again, that even the registered shooters, you would not believe the amount of people you see all over the country shooting just competition clay targets. It's unbelievable. But every once in a while, we'll be sitting there and you'll see people go by the trailer. We'll have our auction out and all this stuff. And they'll see it says benefiting Ronald McDonald House Charities. Yeah. And it's like they hit the brakes and they come right to the trailer and said, you know what? We had to use the Ronald McDonald House in South Florida for my kid that was sick. We were there 6 months. Yeah. That we near and dear to our heart. And they tell you this whole story and it just pulls people from everywhere. It's really remarkable. And listening to the stories of those who have had to use the house is really the most impactful. And what's nice about that, it's not something like, boom, this day of this year or whatever. It's literally, it happens all the time. Yeah. And I think that consolidation of heartwarming stories and how the houses have helped really make this job great.
I love it. And it doesn't discriminate either. You know what I mean?
No.
So illnesses don't discriminate. And, I'm sure you've seen people from all different walks of life coming in there, and so, there's somebody in there for a week, someone in there for 6 months. I mean, you just don't know if you need it.
Yep. Exactly.
So, well, sweet, man. I don't know how long we've been going on, but this has been cool. I've always knew, and, it's probably my fault too, but I was also the guy, the Roundup for Ronald McDonald House. Like, oh, okay, like what's it really do? Like, I don't think people actually get a chance to really take a time and understand how valuable certain organizations are. Yeah. There's so many organizations that want your money and obviously people will find different ones that fit them and what they want to benefit. But, for me, like I was pretty naive in what the foundation actually did before even we met and started looking into it some more. And so, giving you the opportunity to come on and talk about this has just been super awesome because it's just maybe someone listening today helps, Sure. And with that said, kind of tying this back in, how does someone outside of like a corporate organization, or if you are a corporate organization and you're listening to this, how do you get involved with Kids in Clays? I mean, there's some contact information and some other avenues that you can probably reach out to you. But how does someone get involved and want to take part in donating toward the organization? Yeah,
so the easiest thing I think, standard is, go to our website. It's, kidsinclays.com. There you'll be able to, look at our event schedule, and we have a map there that shows where our events are and who participates and all those things. What I would suggest, again, raise the most funds for houses, is find your local Ronald McDonald House.
Sure.
Check their website out. See what they do. See how you can be involved. Because, donating is, obviously is a huge thing. But a lot of it comes down to volunteering, making meals for the families, washing the sheets, stuff like that. Just minimal things. A lot of time, a lot of volunteering in the house can be just as detrimental as writing a check. Yeah. Check your local house out, and they all have a region. Yeah. And I mean they're everywhere here. But then specifically, if you're interested in what Kids and Clays does and all that, again, the website and the event schedule, we have all of our, events on there, along with what houses those benefit. And then, standard donate now button.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
So, but those are the big avenues. But like I said, you check your local. That'll really impact you. And what we try to do with newer sponsors, or people just newer to the organization, I try to get potential sponsors to go tour a house.
Yeah.
Just go tour a house. You will walk out at the end of that with your mouth jaw dropped.
Yeah.
It is that impactful. That's all you need to know the difference in what those houses are doing for families.
And I hope we have an opportunity to get over there. I know we had talked about some other avenues,
sure,
in terms of our help with them. And so, yeah, I think I would love to make an opportunity to get over there. It's not that far. I mean, we all can relate to, we both have kids. We both know
sure,
what we would feel if we were in that situation. And so it's, yeah. The other thing too, you have these shoots. Do you ever get opportunity for someone just to participate?
Yeah.
Just to kind of
see
how it's ran and, and see what kind of event that they're sponsoring.
Yeah. So you can sign up as an individual.
Yeah.
Based on whatever that sponsorship level would be as a team is kind of how they break down.
Okay.
But also, again, volunteer at it.
Yeah.
Come and just check it out. Those are easy, simple things other than your time.
Yeah.
Time is the most valuable thing. So why not volunteer some of that time to make a difference?
Exactly.
So
couldn't say any better ourselves. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on, dude.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's been eye opening, and I just wish you guys nothing but the best of luck. Safe travels going to Wisconsin, and we look forward to seeing that record breaking year this year. He's like me. He's like me too.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, we appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. We'll catch you on the next one. All right, everyone, that is all we have for you today. We really hope you enjoyed our conversation with Zac. It was really fun getting to know more about him and the awesome work that Kids and Clays is doing for Ronald McDonald House Charities. We typically don't ask, but if you haven't already, please go ahead and leave us a rating and review. We have some great guests lined up for future episodes, and your feedback definitely helps get our show out to more people. Also, if you're on social media, check us out. We post highlight clips on just about every major platform. Just look for @Vance Outdoors Inc. INC. As always, we appreciate you listening, and until next time, enjoy the pursuit.